Everything is to go. We're ready.
Yes, Mr. Clark here.
Yeah, he's over there.
Yes.
Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Anything?
No, sir.
Ms. Administrator, you good? Okay. All right, sir.
All right, I'd like to call public services to order. Madam Clerk, we have one addition to the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. This is presented by the administrator regarding a request for Parks and Rec Department awarding a consultant services for infrastructure system LLC as listed on your addendum item.
Any objections to it being added to the agenda committee? None noted. All right, if there's no questions from the committee or from the body, I'd like to consent agenda items number, I have that one. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to remove item number 4 from the agenda.
And we're going to delete number 4. Can I get a motion to approve the?
Mr. Clark gave you a motion. You just need a second.
Second.
Okay, that's a consent. All those that mentioned and delete number 4. Voting, please.
Mr. Mason is out. Okay. That motion carries with Mr. Mason out.
Okay, if we can speak to the addendum agenda item 1, Madam Administrator, if we can go to that one, Madam Clerk, I guess. Madam Clerk, are you good?
Yes, sir.
Can we go to the addendum agenda
I
item?
thought the administrator
Oh,
was
okay.
going to address it.
Okay, Madam Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Clerk and Commissioners. This particular item is on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department. If you would allow Director McDowell to speak to it directly, I would appreciate that.
Okay, Director McDowell.
Good afternoon, Commission, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, so we Parks and Recreation went out and solicited services to assist us with the project management of our SPLOS 8 program. We felt it prudent that due to rising costs and construction costs, we want to be more good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. So we're going to bring in subject matter experts to help us with a lot of forecasting as it relates to these projects, but also create a maintenance program to follow those projects. One of the things that we've been hampered with is maintenance of our facility, as we have an aging facility. So one of the things we want to do as we move forward with bringing on new projects into our coffers is also to add to that a maintenance plan, a CIP plan, as well as a maintenance plans to move those forward, but also show projections in terms of how it impact our operation and maintenance budget moving forward. So we went through the procurement process. ISM was the respondent to that, and based on the scoring system that we had, so we want to move forward with bringing them on board to help address managing some of these projects, helping us pick out some design firms as we go through the design phase, but also help us with forecasting what these numbers should look like before we bring it back before this body to ratify. Just given the fact that we've seen a lot of escalation in cost, and so we want to try to quell that as best we can on the front end and do better jobs in terms of planning those projects moving forward.
Can you please mention where the funds will come from for this?
SPLOS 8, so whatever project that we utilize these on-call services from, we'll pull that from that particular project, as
Thank
we would
you.
do any other type of design.
All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Just want to make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Clark.
I don't have any comment.
I can second the motion, can I? Second. Got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
That motion fails 2-1, with Mr. Clark voting no.
Okay, agenda item number 7, please.
Item number 7 is the draft ordinance for tiny homes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have before us today a draft for the tiny home ordinance that the commission directed our planning and development to draft. And so the director is here to speak, Mr. Chairman, to take us through this ordinance.
Director Delaney.
Well, good afternoon. The Planning and Development Department is standing today before you to fulfill the request of the commission to draft a potential ordinance for tiny homes.
Ms. Carla, can we get you to pull your mic down, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
A full-length draft of the ordinance is in your packets, and I will briefly review the highlights. Thus far, the Planning and Development staff has researched the topic and spoken with several municipalities with tiny home ordinances. And via the Planning Commission in 2021, we had public meetings and a work session in an effort to vet the proposal. The ordinance, as drafted, was written based on the guidance that this would be a residential option for entities seeking to provide housing options to the homeless and veterans. Most recently, this type of development has also been used to house young adults aging out of the foster care system. With that in mind, the draft is based on single entity ownership and not fee simple sale or individual lots or units. On this slide here, what you'll see is there are 4 types of units that are referenced as tiny houses. They're the recreational vehicles, manufactured mobile homes, residential modular, industrialized buildings, and the site buildings. Using the Georgia Department of Community Affairs guidance, planning is recommending that only 2 be permissible. In the red, we've highlighted that generally the state's building codes only apply to tiny houses that are modular dwellings and site-built dwellings. To give you an idea of what that looks like, what you'll see on the screen at the top left with the green star, that's what your stick-built tiny home looks like. In the middle, with the other green star, that's the one of the residential industrialized buildings. And then number 2, you'll see the recreational vehicle. And number 3, it's a mobile home style. So planning is only recommending the 2 that you see the green star on because those are regulated already at the state level, and it'll make it easier for our building division to enforce it. All right. So one of the other things that our research showed us is that tiny homes function best in a communal setting. And we've drafted the ordinance within your packets with that in mind. So we wanted to give you an idea of what this looks like, potentially. So we wanted to make sure not to put a slant on things, but just to give an idea. There's on the right, which is kind of the HGTV method that you see here. Those started at about $250,000. So this was a minimalist lifestyle approach, not an affordable housing approach. Then on the left, you see what we would consider the veteran and homeless housing that has gone on the ground. And this is typically affordable. One of the major differences is whether or not they're fee simple, whether or not they're cars, parking, ownership, and things of that nature. So those are some of the things that you will see in the different styles. And one of the things we'd have to mention too is that if we adopted the ordinance, we will have to adopt amendments to the county's building codes too. This type of development is going to require us to be, as we would like to say, special exception only. We don't want to allow this by right. We want this to be something that the commission and the planning commission gets to look at to make sure we're not eroding the fabric of our neighborhoods and communities. And then I can take any questions about the content at this point.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, I'll go back to you.
Yeah, I just want to first thank the commission for even agreeing to go down this road. I think this is something that has always been a hot topic as far as when we're talking about affordable housing, I think that everyone up here can agree that affordable housing is probably one of the biggest issues that we're facing as a community. And the fact of the matter is tiny homes is just one way to, address this shortage of affordable housing, whether that's for veterans or our homeless brothers and sisters, for folks coming out of college looking for, just a more simple way of living, something a little bit more affordable. I think this is great. I don't have any questions on the ordinance. What I will do is make a motion to approve. But however, I do want to thank the commission for entertaining this idea and the department for working diligently to present this ordinance, because certainly there's going to be a number of people who will benefit from this, especially in a market where the cost of housing is so expensive. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Okay. I'm going to hold on my second I got a couple of questions, so I'm going to hold on my second yet. My question, go.
Chairman, once a motion is made, there can be no other discussion or conversation until there is a second.
Well, I withdraw my motion.
And then you can either second and then discuss it, or withdraw it and then
He's going to
discuss
withdraw it so we can discuss. I just got some clarity questions I just
Yes,
want to
sir.
ask.
Right, no problem. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
So Director Delaney, my question was, if we go down this route, and there's a lot of communities that are going down this route, who would regulate? Would this be us that would regulate who goes into these houses, or would it be a private development that regulates it and helps these people, or if they have issues, like who would maintain that aspect?
Thus far, they have been, at other municipalities, it's a single entity, usually a quasi-governmental agency that's running these as rental units.
Okay, so not us.
Not us, no, sir.
Okay. All right, because the concern, I think it sounds good, and I know there's definitely communities that have used it, but if you're putting people in these lifestyles that they've never been in, and how do they maintain it, how do they, know how to live, how to do these things and home ownership and things of that nature, so that's just my concern, and I'm just kind of trying to understand like how they would be monitored in a sense, and that you're saying that an entity would kind of watch that through this process.
That's where we did the single entity ownership.
Okay.
It didn't turn into a nuisance problem.
Gotcha. And then as far as like from a cost standpoint, like if we were to do the one on the left, what are we looking at, something like that on the unit per unit?
If we're talking about the minimalist lifestyle approach, those came in around $250,000 each unit when they sold.
Okay, are we talking about, which one are we talking about doing, I guess? Both?
So, well, I wanted to get clarity from the commission what the intent was, because if the intent is for homelessness, then you go towards the one that say veterans and homeless housing, and that's what that looks like on the ground, typically.
Okay. And what's the cost on those? That's the one I was...
Those come in somewhere between 107 and 150,000.
Okay. And then you mentioned the special exemption. So basically, even if we move forward the tiny ordinance and talk more, it's not, there still has to be this process of like, we determine the area in which we're going to go, and it's only going to be that area. It's not like it's the Wild Wild West in a sense across the county.
Within the draft ordinance, we identified 3 potential zoning districts that it would be allowed by special exception only, never by right.
Okay. So we're pretty much controlling the process then. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go back to Commissioner Garrett, then Commissioner Johnson. I'll come back to you. Commissioner Garrett. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Clark. I didn't know if you were just...
Thank you, Commissioner. You made a motion, or we'll go into second motion. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we send this to full commission for discussion so that we would have time to read the draft and get a little more information.
No, not discussion. You're saying full commission for motion to approve, or a motion? Is that what you're saying? You said discussion.
Well,
just basically, we're going to vote next Tuesday
Send it to the full commission.
without a recommendation.
Right.
I'll second it. All right. Anything else? Yeah, I'm coming back to you, but I was going to Commissioner Garrett, then Johnson, because he would talk first.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess this question revolves around the special exceptions. you gave us two options for what types that we would want to allow here, whether it's ground built or modular. And then looking at these pictures that you've got in front of us, would these two types of developments be even considered by the special exception that you're recommending?
Yes, I made
Okay.
sure to only give you examples of what we would actually approve.
Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I think Commissioner Franham tried asking a similar question and you'd lean towards the, pick one or the other. So I was just trying to clarify what we're really talking about, and and I guess more of that would be laid out during the special exception meetings with planning and then with us as well. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. So just for clarity, because I'm understanding there are some questions, and I hope that we can get clarity on what we're trying to do here. This ordinance will allow for both of these types of developments. So if I was a developer and I wanted to develop on the right, this ordinance would allow me to do that. If I were a developer and I wanted to develop on the left, this ordinance would allow me to do that.
As far as the look and aesthetic, yes.
Okay, so was this not an either-or conversation, right? You're correct.
Only if you get into whether or not it's fee simple.
So so let's use for an example the Colvett Dundee down in Savannah. That's more so your housing on the left, correct?
Correct.
Nobody in Savannah bought a single unit for $100,000, correct?
Their price points have changed as they've gone through the phases.
But the homeless individuals, the homeless veterans that they service, were not responsible for buying a unit at $100,000.
No, the
Okay.
entity that
Okay.
put the project together paid for all of the construction, and they fundraised
Gotcha.
to get the money.
Okay. And so with that being said, would either one of these projects be considered similar to what we did on Sibley Street some years back?
Sibley is attached.
Can you walk us through that Sibley, what happened
I'm
with Sibley?
I'm very familiar
Okay.
with Sibley. I worked Sibley Street. I did the construction on Sibley. So I would say no.
Okay.
There are different, as far as the setting, they all front on the street, whereas this would be a community setting. They all allowed for parking, off-street parking.
But hold on one second, in terms of management,
Management style, yes.
Okay.
Yes, the CSRA EOA is managing that as an entity. So yes, and I believe it has been successful.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner Sine.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Delaney, these prices, say again, these are 400 square foot homes?
No, sir. The ones on the left are about 128 to 200 square feet. And the ones on the right, they went up to about 458 square feet.
Okay. And you said the one on the left is how much?
The one on the left, because of the current construction prices, they've been coming in between 107 and 150,000 to build. Typically, I think some of those costs are rolling in the cost of the land into each unit too. So that's quite normal.
So from the conversation we're having today, is that relevant to us to know what the cost is? If you say it's another developer, that's not even much an issue for us, right? If we're not developing the complex.
I would say it wouldn't be, the price point wouldn't be, for construction, it wouldn't be on the city to determine it or to be responsible for it. It's whoever develops it.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner McKnight.
Yes, I thank you. I'd gotten up just a minute ago, so I might have missed a few questions. But how many of these are we talking about, and where are they going? Where are they going to go? What site? Do we have an idea?
So we don't have an applicant or a developer at the table that's willing to do this as of yet. I think the commission's hope, as conveyed to me, was that once we put something in place, we would probably have someone coming behind this ordinance. So there is no particular dedicated site for that, for this purpose. Okay. We have identified 3 potential zones where we think it could be permitted, and those were R1E, R3B, and R3C, which are multifamily districts.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Chairman. You mentioned earlier that you had identified 3 areas around the county that you would tend to place these, or that you would think that'd be approved or a good use. What 3 areas are those?
I 3 zoning districts
Oh, 3 zoning
that,
districts.
that these would be potentially suitable for.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
All right, we got a motion and a second to forward to the full commission with no recommendation. Voting, please. If there's no more questions, voting, please. Thank you for your work on this.
It's unanimous.
And that concludes public services. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. I think public safety is next. Call public safety to order. I would like to consent items 3, 4, and 5. If there's no objections. Commissioner Garrett,
Motion to approve?
we have a motion to approve in a second. Voting, please.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. We have items 1 and 2 that look like they're companion items, and I think that this has already been sent to the administrator with the contract negotiations between Augusta and Gold Cross. Am I not correct?
Commissioner, are you directing that question to me?
Yes, I am, please.
Yes, you are correct.
They've already been sent with the negotiations, correct?
Not these 2 items specifically, but the commission has directed the administrator's office as well as the law department to negotiate contract with Gold Cross.
Okay, can I get someone to make a motion to,
So move, both of them,
For what?
Motion to what?
Oh,
To include
1 and
these-
2?
Yeah,
One
1
and
and 2,
two.
to include these in negotiations.
well, I was looking for, excuse me just a second, I was looking for a motion to maybe wait until the negotiations have come back to us before we start making any kind of entities or adjustments on it.
Well, I believe if you just up front,
I can't hear you.
I believe if you just up front and go for what you want, you'll be okay. Things will fall out that they don't want, or you have some contention with, or what have you. I believe just go ahead and put them in the negotiation. It may not come out the way Mr. Williams wants them to come out. However, they know what you want. So that's the motion. If we don't get a second, we'll be fine.
Was that the motion?
The motion is to include 1 and 2 in the negotiations with Gold Cross. I didn't say implement them, I said in the negotiations.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes, sir.
Hold on.
Being that these are my 2 items, the main objective here is to ensure that these items is in the discussion and part of the recommendations to the other party. Now, they could go as a combined item. I want to ensure that we have a meaningful process of invoicing for their services, and that we have a committee that's established, not just in the agreement itself, like we get a lot of information, and then 2 months down the road, well, we only received 1% of complaints, or they've gone down or up. I want to ensure that you have these processes in place to help manage the program. Now, I'll take them any kind of way you get them, long as it's guaranteed that these two type items be included in the final recommendation to the vendor and to the commission.
Commissioner Garrett?
I definitely think this should be part of the conversation, but to set up a committee, which I'm not seeing where that was part of either one of the agenda items, I think that would be inappropriate to suggest as part of the negotiations. But I think that Gold Cross has heard that these are some of the things that we've wanted to see. They've actually agreed to number one already, I believe. And so I think that, as you know, adding this as part of the negotiations probably is a good thing, to at least have some sort of conversation about what it all looks like. So I'm going to second Commissioner Bobby Williams' initial motion.
Okay, as that items companion 1 and 2 together, we have a motion to approve and a second. Voting, please.
Mr. Garrett. Thank you. It's unanimous.
Thank you. With no further business before public safety, this committee is adjourned.
Ready.
Administrative Services is now in session. Any additions or deletions?
No, sir.
Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. If there's no addition or deletions, I'd like to consent item number 1, item number 2, item number 5, and item number 7. Committee, are there any questions, or my colleagues, any questions, anything about any of that? 1, 2, 5, and 7. I'm talking, well, yeah, 1, 2.
What about 6?
We on
I mean, it's a,
6 is fine. Anybody, committee got any problem with 6?
I'll second it.
So, Ms. Bonner, can you give a run back those numbers, please?
1, 2, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, and Commissioner Williams, what you wanted to do now?
We want to delete item number 3.
Ms. Bonner, and the committee, we want to delete item number 3.
Okay, that will be added to the consent.
Okay. Do I have a motion in a second?
Yes, sir.
Voting.
I'm going the opposite way.
It's unanimous.
Ms. Bonner, the next one,
Yeah.
numerical order, please.
Okay. I think Ms. McFarley's going to hand out to you a handout.
What is this, 2?
4. Motion, administrator.
Yes, ma'am. You go ahead. ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good to know.
A vast majority of America's workforce is reporting higher than average turnover ratios. Augusta, unfortunately, is among the number in experiencing a similar problem. Our 2022 authorized employee count is 2,916, of which 86% represent our full-time workforce. Our 2021 data reflects the vacancy ratios of 18%, and year-to-date ratios have reached above 25%. 69% of our employees have been employed with Augusta for less than 3 years, while 6% have been employed for more than 20 years. This data further impresses upon us the need for employee retention efforts, such as my recommendations as presented today. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics released economic data related to separation rates by industry, as shown above, from 2018 to 2021. The annual total is the number of separations during the entire year as a percentage of annual average employment in each industry. As you can see, both the federal, state, and local sectors of government. Absent year-to-date percentages, a similar release reported an average employee turnover of less than 5 years in 2021, with an average astonishing cost to replace each employee accounting to more than 30% of the employee's annual salary. This information highlights the value in retaining the quality talent we currently have employed. While the stated trends appear to be improving, various factors come into play when assessing employee turnover, such as the quality of life, empathy of the employer to employee real-life situations, the flexibility of the work environment, and an improved work-life balance. In fiscal year 2022, Augusta began the process of increasing salaries with staffers in an effort to retain and recruit qualified talent. While some employees have received retention-based increases, all employees have not. This recommended path forward is in an effort to complete the initiative for the remainder of our employment base. Please note that external agencies are not included with this plan, which is common in practices past. A pay classification and compensation study has been submitted for advertising with the expectation to engage a firm fourth quarter of this year, of course with the approval of the Commission. The most recent pay classification and compensation study was completed and implemented upon Commission approval by the Archer Group recommendations, in 2018. It included market rate salary increases, pay grade changes, longevity increases for employees who qualified. Comparable municipalities have reported recent studies costing more than $250,000 with an expected implementation time frame lasting 3 years. Augusta would propose the same, however, we would have periodic implementations throughout the time frame of the study. In January 2019 and July of 2020, Augusta gave a 1.5% cost of living adjustment to their employees. My recommendation today is to give employees a 3% cost of living adjustment to be implemented October 2022, with an estimated annual cost totaling $1.9 million if approved. The cost of living adjustment is computed on an employee's base salary, not including any supplements received. The proposed retention bonus that you see before you is an additional layer of recommended increase based upon the above salary ranges. Bonuses are tiered, as you could see, ranging from $1,000 to $2,500. Part-time employees, pay class 300, would receive half of the qualified bonus based upon their respective salary range. Neither the cost of living adjustment nor the recommended bonuses that you see today applies to the salaries of elected officials, nor supplemental payments paid. You will also be aware that elected official salaries are computed based upon various factors that have already been set. While salary increases are appreciated, studies have shown and employees have cited additional reasons for voluntarily vacating a position. Providing little opportunity for growth and advancement within the current workplace has proven to be discouraging. To remedy this challenge, leadership is encouraged to meet with employees regularly to discuss their professional goals, professional development, training opportunities, and to sift out any gap areas that can be attained. Our Human Resources Department is to be applauded for recently implementing an internal training and professional development program, which allows employees to receive assistance when reaching their desired career potentials. Recent trainings offered have included directors, supervisors, managers, and the like. Topics such as the art of effective communication, performance management, and leading with emotional intelligence have been offered and well attended. Staying abreast of current industry trends and offering products that are up to date, as well as services that rival competitors, will eliminate the challenge employees face when utilizing outdated technology or practices. Employees have also cited a need to be more engaged, to feel meaningful connection to their work. As we all know, disengaged employees commonly meet only the minimum requirements if they choose to meet those at all. Encouraging our directors to utilize our current telework policy, which was adopted by the Commission February 2021, as well as policy provisions already outlined in our 3 p.m. under alternative work schedules, will allow employees, where applicable, the flexibility that they may desire in our workforce today. Additional challenges are attributed to employees being overworked, employers not challenging employees in a meaningful manner. Now, while this listing is not all-inclusive, when coupled strategically, Augusta's retention challenges can be mitigated. To this end, Commissioners, I ask you to approve my recommendations as stated.
Madam Administrator, thank you for the presentation. My first question is, where are your resources coming from to make this happen?
So the Finance Department has identified unexpected increases through our sales tax collections year to date. And based upon trends from forecasting as well as historical trends, we are comfortable that the $1.9 million to support the cost of living adjustments can be sustained.
And so what about the bonuses? How the bonuses will be compensated?
The bonuses, of course, will be fulfilled through our fiscal year 2022 budget as well, and we have identified the funding for those.
And what is the date for potential payout on this again?
October 2022, the first payroll period.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for the Administrator. In regards to the, actually I have 3 different areas I wanted to cover. So back to your first slide that you showed the current vacancy rate at 26%. How many additional employees were budgeted for this year?
From the previous year?
Yes.
I don't have that data. I can tell you that 1 additional employee was approved for this year.
I know that.
Do you know the difference from last year to this year?
I just seem to remember there was a conversation, especially in the Sheriff's Department, of adding additional positions, and I'm just curious to see if that number had anything to do with the big jump in the vacancies. Not
No,
really? Okay.
it did not.
Okay. Well, that's why I asked the questions. And in regards to the retention bonuses, is this just a one-time retention bonus?
That's correct.
So So you're not asking for like a continual bonus, you stay for 5 years, you get a bonus, stay for 10, you get another bonus, those types of things.
No, and it's also based upon your current salary.
But
So this is not the longevity bonus that we did similar with the cost of living, similar with the pay classification and compensation study previously. This is a one-time retention bonus. Keep in mind, commissioners, that after a compensation study has been completed, we are expecting it to have additional recommendations regarding salaries.
so in regards to this retention bonus, is there anything that you're suggesting be outlined? If an employee receives this bonus, do they have to stay an additional amount of time, or can they just hang around to the first pay period in October, get their bonus, and say, see ya?
They could, however, Augusta is a great place to work, so I would hope that would not happen, although it is possible, yes.
And, okay. And next question is for the attorney. In regards to bonuses, is this something that is allowable for government employees? Is this not a gratuity?
Commissioner, I think that this payment can be achieved. I think the wording may have to be worked on. It was not submitted to the law department in advance.
Okay. All right, that is all the questions that I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Frantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, thank you for this, Administrator. I do think, our employees are our greatest asset. We got to take care of them. But I also think that there's things that we need to make sure as a government we're doing as well. And what I mean by just a couple of things. Number one is that we need to make sure that every person that's clocking in this government is clocking in on a time clock, not on their cell phones. And if there's a way to put that in, I think that we need to make sure that no cell phone clock in happens, because they can be anywhere if they're on their cell phone, and I'm not sure that we have those kind of controllables right now. I will say this government, even since I've been here, we've added holidays for them and really took care of them. I think it's important that this government, on our side, that we hear every person that left every department, and the reason, if we're not doing exit interviews, or we ought to know why there's so much turnover in some of these areas. Some of them, I think that it's personnel changes at a management level, that they wanted new people. Some of it is dissatisfaction because they got moved to a different area in the area that they've been in for X amount of years. So I think it's important that we get the feedback too of what's going on. Not only, yes, you can take care of the employee, but it's going to continue a problem unless we get to the root of the problem and know what's going on. So I think it's important that department heads be held accountable to know, their turnover rate and why they're left, and be open and honest with that feedback, because we all can grow to learn from that. I would also think that, why not do this on a month-to-month versus a one-time thing, where if they make it each month, it's like, oh, you made it, as opposed to just giving them $2,500 and they could leave the next week. I mean, why not have some form of tier? And I'm not saying it's got to be monthly, maybe it's quarterly, and we divide this $2,500 by 4 or something that holds them a little bit more accountable than just, you're here till October 1st and then you're gone with $2,500 because you were able to make it. So that's kind of my initial thoughts. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it is, obviously there's definitely some areas that we can help to, and this will definitely help. But I guess from my point of view, I'd like to see it a little bit more tiered approach instead of this one-time aspect, because I'm afraid that some people will just, get, and I guess my one question I forgot was, if you were to hire today, you'd be eligible. If you were hired on September 1st, would you be eligible? Or what's the eligibility? I guess I must have missed that.
So we have not defined the eligibility requirements. The commission can state if you want all employees employed as of today's date or as of next week, but those fine-tuned eligibility requirements have not been outlined.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess that'll be something more we discuss, but great start for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Garrett, are you still in, or are you just?
I have one follow-up question.
Go ahead, and then I'll make my comments.
And this is a follow-up question to what Commissioner Franham just requested, and this is maybe for the attorney. Is there a way to add a caveat for the bonuses that, once you receive this one-time bonus, that you agree to stay with us for another year or anything like that?
Could you, Commissioner Garrett, could you give us a little time to think about that? I clearly hear what the point that you're trying to make about it, yes. So let us look at it and see if that can be structured depending upon what the administrator has in mind.
That's it. Okay. Well, thank you once again, Madam Administrator, for that and for taking my colleague for all the questions. I think all of them are very valid questions. My only thing is I do feel strongly about the budget. I mean, the retention bonus at this particular time, that's the language being used, I think it's appropriate giving to them in a lump sum, because sometimes people can see that when you get to them in small increments, it's almost like you don't ever feel like you've gotten anything, you know, so I'd rather give me something I can work with. I do understand the empathy in terms of people taking up and leaving, but also I think there's something else that the administrator mentioned as well, and that is knowing that we'll be potentially very near future be doing a comp study, and their lives will be enhanced again to the better. So I think it gives us the opportunity that we're moving in the right direction and thinking about our employees. I think it's a good thing. I think it's the right thing to do based on the climate that we're in. And Commissioner Franklin also mentioned those reasons. I think all of the valid reasons why people are leaving. But also we lost a lot of great employees in the last 2 years because between private industry and other governmental entities picking them off because of the salaries, you know, and so we had that to throw in there as well. So I'd like to get a motion to approve for my colleagues if somebody don't mind.
So moved.
Second. Voting, Ms. Bonner.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. I'm sorry.
I'm wait. I was just going to say, are we going to fine tune the details next week?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would assume they would. I was under the assumption they try to get them next week to us.
Okay. Okay.
That was assumption. Apologize for that.
It's unanimous.
Is that it, Ms. Bonner?
Yes, sir.
Administrative services has ended.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Bonner, when you are ready, I'd like to call engineering services to order.
Yes, sir. We're ready.
Are there any additions or deletions?
No, sir.
All righty. As we get started, if no one has any objections, I'd like to consent items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8.
And 8, you say, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Second.
Who was that second?
Mr.
Oh, okay.
Johnson.
All right.
Come on now, Ms. Bonner.
Voting.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's unanimous.
I did consent number 2. All right. I think we'll start with number 3.
Okay. Item number 3 is to approve revision to the fund allocation of construction contract to Reeve Construction in the amount of $6,241,856.93 for the East Augusta roadway and drainage project, Brunswick Avenue and Azalea Street, as itemized under the financial impact section.
Thank you. And I know that Commissioner Johnson had some questions in reference to this, and I think Dr. Malik is here to help answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're right, I just do have a question. I know we approved this project last year, and we just want to make sure that this item does not halt the progress of the East Augusta drainage project in its current state. So if you would just kind of walk through what this means. Of course, I'm going to have concerns about it. So if you would just walk through what it means, we don't want to take any dollars away from this project if we don't have to, but I want to get a better understanding about what's happening here.
Yes, sir. So in summary, there's no impact to this project or ongoing work. And the contract amount is still the same. The scope is still the same. It does include some other work, which, water and sewer work, and we've been working, engineering been working with the water and sewer to supplement some of the construction costs. So finally, we get to consensus, so we're making those adjustments to the budget, but there's absolutely no impact to the project or the scope.
So is this AUD coming into the project paying certain portions of the project is what you're saying?
Yes,
They're
sir.
coming to supplement the work that was already approved.
Yes, sir.
So the dollars we're talking about right now is just some money that we can work around now that we have extra money coming in from another department, is what we're saying?
Right, so they supplementing their part of the work, and then the money which initially engineering allocated to actually award this contract to get the construction moving, because we don't want to wait while we're resolving. So now we're using that fund, and we have emergency failure at the frontage road. And
Okay.
we're gonna
And
use
final
that
question,
money.
Mr. Chairman, what's going on Frontage Road? Can you elaborate a little bit about what's happening on
Yes,
Frontage?
so this part of the Crane Creek
Okay.
that crosses frontage road, goes under Bobby Jones, so that's been happening almost over 3 years now, and we've been patching it, and now it's up to the point that really we need to take care of it
Okay.
permanently.
All right, Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and we are voting.
I get a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I get a question.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Bobby Williams.
Yes, sir. Very quickly. So are you going to pave the entire roads with Brunswick Avenue, Azalea Street, and some of those others in that area? Is it calling for an entire pavement of those roads?
Frontage?
I see Brunswick Avenue, Azalea Street, and there's several others. I've been down there, I see where they've been doing the work. So and I see where they've cut some of those roads. So are they gonna pave the entire roads?
Yes, sir. If whatever's in that project limit, yes, sir, there, with the paving and the stormwater and one side sidewalk.
Okay,
Because these are phased projects, so this is phase 3, then we have phase 4, phase 5, so it will cover the entire East Augusta area, but still 2 more phases to come. So this project, these roads which are listed, yes, they will be paved as part of this
Yeah,
project.
I'm just trying to make sure that, sometimes we can make a mess. We cut a piece of a road out, and then we want to put a patch there, and the old road is there, and then the new part is there, and one looks newer than the other, and so forth and so on. So, just want to make sure we're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Clark, do you have a question?
Yeah, we're talking about all these drainage projects and everything that seem to be going along pretty fair, except for a couple. I'd like to ask if I can get a quick update on the Morningside and the Sandpiper Lane project, Steambank projects.
Is this relevant to the agenda item?
Well, it's construction on these drainage problems, so why wouldn't it be?
That might be a better question for a sidebar with the engineering chairman or an engineering director to.
Well, the block is in place.
Dr. Malik, can you please update Commissioner Clark after the meeting in regard to those 2 projects?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Voting, Ms. Bonner?
Yes, sir. It's unanimous. That concludes engineering. Are we ready with finance, Mr. Dennis Williams?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to call Finance Committee to order, please. If my colleagues would agree, I would like to consent items number 1 and number 2.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second, please cast your vote.
It's unanimous.
Madam Clerk, I forgot to ask, were there any additions?
No, sir, there weren't.
Just want to make sure. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. That concludes finance.
Yes, sir, we're done.